Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Phelan Fairchild, for the Phoenix Hour, your bi-weekly conversation with the Phoenix developers. Of course, I'm here joined to my let's see, my left. I had to think about it. By the lovely Jessica Lyon. Hello, Jessica.
Hi.
And joining us today is Aaron Oberlander. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Phelan.
Why don't you tell us what you do?
Well, I primarily work on Firestorm and direct all the feature requests that we get into implementations and things that you can actually use.
Fabulous. So you're like the Firestorm lead developer then, yes?
Yes, that is the title.
It's a lovely title. I'd like to be the lead of anything. Sounds very important.
It's important that people know who to yell at.
Oh, see, I wouldn't like that part.
Unfortunately, that's the main part.
Oh, okay. Well, I will pass that up. So who's your boss? What's the title they got?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Because I might take the one up, So anyway, we've got a packed show for you today. A lot of exciting discussion. And remember, if you have questions, if something triggers a little thought stream from you and you would like to have your say, please send it to me in NIAM. And I will ask it during our Q&A session at the end. But we're going to get rolling immediately because we've got a lot of territory to cover. So Jessica, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, and hello everybody. Thank you for coming. And all you folks on the stream watching. So there's a couple things I want to talk about today. I'm going to start with our Phoenix viewer. So we have a beta in progress right now for Phoenix. We'll be doing a second beta tomorrow night on the Phoenix, and we're hoping to have a Phoenix release this weekend. So it'll be probably version 900 and something once we get to it. It's certainly higher than 818. Some of the things that we've fixed in this Phoenix release is the 42 groups. It will be automatically detected now from the server. So if Lynn Lab decides, in a month from now that they're going to reduce it to 30 or 35, or they decide that they want to increase it to 50, the viewer will be able to automatically adjust that so that people won't have all the problems that they've had with enabling the 40 groups in Phoenix. So basically it's going to be automated. Another thing that we fixed, and again, we are continuing work on the Phoenix viewer, but it is mostly bug fixes, and this Phoenix release will be mostly bug fixes. And so another thing that we fixed is we've had a lot of complaints from people that the showcase links, so if you do Control F or search and go to showcase, the links don't work, the teleport links. So this has been fixed for Windows and Mac, and if we're lucky, we're going to have that fixed for Linux as well in this release. So that's a big thing. There was a lot of store owners complaining that they weren't working, and so we spent some time and we got that fixed. Another thing that's been fixed, or at least we hope it's been fixed, Beta hasn't been able to, or our QA team, quality assurance team, hasn't been able to reproduce yet the viewer lockups that we had with especially 725 to a lesser degree on 818. So we're hoping that we've really resolved that problem now with this Phoenix release. So some people were having lockups. Basically, it's like you're moving around and suddenly just everything kind of stops for a second, and then it goes back to normal, and then it stops again for a second. And so we're hoping that that's fixed. So far, it's passing in QA, so it seems it's looking good. Some other things that we had problems with was texture jumping, which actually isn't accurate. Texture jumping is basically when a texture fully rezzes and then gets fuzzy again, and then it rezzes and then it gets fuzzy again. So we're hoping that that's been fixed. QA hasn't been able to reproduce it on this beta yet, so that's looking positive. Updated client tags. So a lot of people have seen people on Firestorm viewers showing up as invalid. So I guess we had a bug in a couple of the last Phoenix releases that the client tag list, the database that contains the identifiers for all the tags that show up as Phoenix or Firestorm or Imprudence or Viewer 2 hasn't been getting updated. So people are on some fairly old client tags, and Firestorm isn't included for these people. So we're basically forcing an updated client list in this viewer release. So that everybody will have all the most recent client tags. There's a lot of viewers that should be on that list and haven't been, simply because for some reason, I think it was 373, 725, and 818 haven't been updating that database. So certainly worthwhile if you like to know and let's see proper viewer tags on people. This update will be for you. Another thing that we had a problem with is 725 and 818. If you use the IRC, built-in IRC in the viewer, you will have noticed that everybody's name is full of question marks, and basically display names broke the IRC in the viewer. And that appears to have been, we appear to have fixed that. And I say appear because I forgot to mention that to QA, so I'll be mentioning that tomorrow for beta, for our second beta, to make sure that is fixed. And so for those of you who miss the IRC, you will have that again for this release that's upcoming. And there's all kinds of other things that we've done, but little minor bug fixes here and there. So this Phoenix release is certainly worthwhile. It's obviously going to be better than 818, and I must say 818 is pretty darn good. So that's Phoenix.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Yeah, and this will be one of our last Phoenix releases. Not the last, but one of our last Phoenix viewer releases.
So you said, though, that you're mainly doing maintenance and bug fixes and stuff.
Pretty much focusing on bug fixes. I mean, our main focus is Firestorm, so we're limited to how much time we can devote to the Phoenix viewer. And now we're pretty much all on the ball for Firestorm, and so we're having less time that we can spend on Phoenix. And that's why I say this is probably going to be one of, if not the second last, one of the very last Phoenix releases that we're going to put out.
You know, Jessica, I have not yet used Firestorm. But
oh, shame on you.
I know, right? But I know many people who have, and I was actually with somebody just a few minutes before I arrived here who was telling me that they absolutely love it, and it's full of win, quote unquote, and so it seems that you're getting a lot of positive response from the Firestorm.
Well, and this segues us. This segues us perfectly into the next topic, which was the Firestorm Preview 1. So let's talk about how it went. First of all, I want to talk about the video. So there's a lot of people, most people thought the video, that's the video tutorial I did on how to customize the Firestorm interface. I did get some flack for that video, and so I just wanted to clear this up. First of all, there were things in that video that I was pointing out how to, customize this and customize that were Linen Lab Viewer 2.4 features, not specifically ours. And so the intention of the viewer, I think, got a little bit confused. The intention of the viewer wasn't as a feature promotional video or something like that. It was basically, I wanted to do a video that shows people how to customize the interface on the Firestorm Preview 1 viewer before they got the viewer. And so it was basically, it wasn't meant to say, this is our feature and that's our feature, and it wasn't that. It was about, this is how you do this is how you do that. And so I'd like to apologize to Linen Lab for not being more clear on what features are ours and what features were theirs. Otherwise, the video was, people loved it, so I think it was quite good. It certainly served the purpose that I intended for that video. Now, for the Firestorm review, how did it go? Well, pretty amazing. We didn't expect people to like it as much as they have. We expected people to say, oh, that's not bad. It's getting better. It looks like it's got promise. But actually, we actually have people, this was a pre-alpha, and we have a lot of people who are actually using this viewer now full time in pre-alpha with bugs and everything. They love it, even with the bugs. I can't tell you how happy that makes me that it was received that well from the users in Second Life. Now, as far as how well does it perform? So we got some information from Linden Lab actually just today in regards to crash statistics, how many people are running it, and so on. So this pre-alpha, in the last week, we've had 2,319 distinct users. Honestly, I didn't expect we'd get more than 500 or 600 people on this viewer. It is a pre-alpha, right? So that's pretty incredible already. There have been in the past week 11,305 logins. So that's not distinct, that's just people logging into it, how many times it's been logged into in 1 week. And this is pretty incredible. 729,818 minutes have been spent on Firestorm in the last week. So this is how much time people have actually spent on this viewer in 1 week on a pre-alpha preview viewer, which was not intended to be used, you know, on a regular basis. It was basically put out there as here's a look at what we're doing. People like what we're doing so much that they're using it on a constant basis. The best news of all is that the crash rate, which is somewhat inaccurate because we don't have the kind of user base on Firestorm that we do have on Phoenix, for example. But the crash rate on Firestorm, as reported by Linden Lab, is 12%. In comparison, Phoenix viewer, which was our most stable viewer we've ever put out, and is the most stable third-party viewer on the directory right now, is, as of today, I think it was 12.38%. Firestorm is actually more stable than the Phoenix viewer.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's really incredible. So, you know, as far as was this preview one a success, resounding success, and I'm so grateful for everybody who has tried it and given us feedback. Certainly, we are taking that feedback into account with our next preview.
It's pretty exciting because it shows that we're making steady progress in terms of stability, and that's something that I know you guys are very committed to.
Absolutely.
Both with Firestorm and with Phoenix. Of course, that sort of leads me to a question that I was going to ask you several times already. You've mentioned Linden Lab. And it's very interesting because about a week ago, I happened to log in and received quite a few messages. Some of those messages were probably from people in the audience now. And I was directed to a URL online and that was sort of buzzing on Twitter. And it was the topic was Linden Lab teams with Phoenix for Viewer 2 features. And an article said 3 times last week, once during the Wednesday Snowstorm Daily Scrum meeting. I love that word, scrum. It just sounds so naughty. Again at the former Esby Linden's office hour, and then again at Oz Linden's office hour, in which you were in attendance apparently. Oz made statements that Snowstorm will soon be integrating some of Firestorm's code base, beginning soon after Firestorm 2. Do you want to make a statement on that or comment on that at all?
Right. So it was, and I read some of the blogs. I was present at that office hour. Unfortunately, I had gotten very busy IRL and ended up going AFK, and I missed the whole thing. And then I was surprised to be linked to a blog from one of the people who were there, saying that Phoenix and the Phoenix project has partnered with Linden Lab. So this was news to me. It's not to say that there isn't any truth behind it. So the partnership between Phoenix Viewer Project and Linden Lab, it extends to that we are cooperating the way open source projects should be cooperating. We will, of course, be contributing Firestorm code to Linden Lab in the hopes that they will implement some of our changes into the Linden Lab Viewer 2. But there isn't anything more formal in the way of a partnership than that at this time anyways. It's basically that, we're cooperating. And of course we're cooperating. This is an open source project, and one of our founding principles is to improve the user experience, and not just by creating our own viewer, but by also trying to improve that experience for people on the SL viewers. And so, yeah, of course, absolutely, we're going to be contributing to Linen Lab, but there's no, paper signed or formal partnership or anything like that.
Is there any concern, do you think, from your audience or from your community that doesn't, perhaps, I guess, is there any concern even from your internal team that parts of the code that are distinctive to Firestorm or the Phoenix development team, that Viewer 2 will become so much like Firestorm in some context that right now we see Firestorm as having a distinctive edge in terms, if you're looking at it being, well, obviously it commands most of the logins and is the most widely used third-party viewer. Do you feel that contributing too much to the Linden Labs Viewer 2 will kind of become redundant in terms of, that one will become very much like the other?
No, because now keep in mind that we don't benefit from having more people in our viewer. The users benefit from the users that want to use our viewer for whatever reasons they have will benefit from using our viewer. And so the goal isn't to try to, get all the users of Second Life. The goal is to improve the user experience. And if we can do that by Linen Lab using every line of our code that we've put in, then we've won. That's exactly what we want. So, I mean, if the Linen Lab Viewer 2 becomes just like Firestorm, that's fantastic. And it also makes it a lot easier for us to merge their changes down the road. So, it's not a competition. We're not competing with Linen Lab. We're just trying to improve the experience for the users in general. And if we can do that through Linen Lab as well, that's all the more better.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Let's move on to what's coming with Firestorm Preview 2, because I have another one lined up.
So we have Preview 2 is in the works. Preview 2 will be alpha, not pre-alpha, but an alpha, and that's just a fancy title. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's just our way of saying it's not a beta yet, it's not a release yet, it's alpha. And some of the things we have on our to-do list I'm going to go through. This doesn't mean that we're going to have everything that I list here. It means that this is on our to-do list for Preview 2, and we hope to be able to get this stuff done. So we're scheduling and hoping that we'll be able to get Preview 2 out at the end of February. We are absolutely going to try with all our power. Aaron is going to do radar. So we're going to get radar, at least some degree of radar, into the Preview 2 build. Of course, this is the #1 requested feature, and most people can't live without it. I am one of them. So we're going to be probably contributing or taking a contribution from Kitty Barnett of the CatSnip viewer, because she has some radar integrated into the Nearby People tab. Or Nearby People panel, and so we'll be starting with that as a base and adding to that some of the Phoenix radar functionality that isn't already there. So you can expect that radar is in the top priority for Preview 2. We're hoping to have Bridge for Firestorm ready, and LL Move to Target Teleports ready. LL Move to Target Teleports allows you to teleport around a sim that has a landing point that generally the sim will prevent you from teleporting anywhere. So if you're in a sim with a landing point and you go to double click teleport somewhere and you don't have Move to Target Teleport, it ends up putting you back at the landing point or just fails altogether. So we're hoping to have LL Move to Target, which allows you to basically, if the sim has a landing point, the bridge will move your avatar to the position you want it to be. This is really good for shopping. I use it constantly for shopping. We already have in Preview 1 a partial implementation of the Phoenix Winlight, parcel Winlight, or shared parcel Winlight settings. Our plan is to complete that implementation in Preview 2. Another thing that's been highly requested is a login manager. No, we're not going to have a grid manager in Preview 2, but we will probably have a login manager, which basically provides you with a little drop down on the login screen that you can choose which account you want to log in, and it automatically fills the password field for you and the name. Spell check would be nice. It's on our list, but to be honest, probably unlikely to be in Preview 2. It is certainly on the list as something that's very highly requested and something we definitely want to get in there. We're going to be refactoring preferences page, so you know how Phoenix has a pretty messy preferences page set up with all those tabs. We're trying to do that a little bit better in Firestorm. So we're hoping to have, it'll probably be a lot of blank pages to begin with, but basically it's going to work as a template for future features that we add. So we're hoping to have that. We'll have command line preferences page in there as well. Right-click where on inventory folders. This is something that Tosh is working on. Is my mic still coming through?
You sound great.
Yep, you sound good.
Okay, because my voice dot thing has just quit on me.
It's okay, I flicked it. It's good.
Okay. So yeah, Tosh is working on right-click where on inventory folders. This is something that everybody's used to in Viewer 1, where you can right-click on a folder and where, and it replaces whatever attachments are on that attachment point. That's not in Firestorm or Linen Lab V2 right now, so we're hoping we're going to have that in there. We already have temp uploads. Yes, you're going to get temp uploads in Preview 2. We might be able to get broadcast viewer effects. And the V1 style communicate window. So in Preview 1 you saw that we've made the communications panel for your chat and whatnot similar to V1. It wasn't finished, and we're hoping to have that polished up for Preview 2. Accordions in things like appearance panel, basically all the accordions. That's the things that it's like brown and you click it and it extends up, or you click it again and it extends down. We're switching that to tabs, and that's thanks to Toy Wiley, who has been submitting us patches to fix that. Buttons in preferences network to open chat log settings. So if you're used to Phoenix and you go to preferences network, there's a couple other areas there that you can open up your chat log location. You can open your crash log location. We're going to try to get those in for Preview 2. Certainly that's helpful for support. There is a new clear cache button. So there was a lot of complaints that when you click the reset cache, it ended up, if you had a custom cache location and you clicked reset cache, it reset it back to the Linen Lab, or to the default location, sorry. As it turns out, that was actually intended behavior. So we've added a clear cache button, which will actually clear the cache and not change the location that you've chosen for your cache. We've added a sidebar option for the MetaHarper skin. So we had a sidebar option for the gray skin, and so we've added that as well for MetaHarper. As well as quite a big variety of bug fixes, crash bugs, and various things. So that's what's in store for Preview 2, at least that's what our goals are. Can't guarantee that we'll get everything in there. Some of it's already been done. Much of it is in the process of being done, and hopefully we can get it in on time.
What's exciting about that is it's indicative that you're making progress with leaps and bounds. So I imagine the Firestorm team has to be incredibly busy.
Very, and I'll say that nothing is easy on this code base. There was a lot of people saying that, oh, well, you know, they just moved a couple of buttons around. That's not easy to do on this code base. It should be a lot easier than it is.
Interestingly enough, Aaron, I know that how do you feel about the response that people who at one point were very resistant to the Viewer 2 build, how do you feel that now they seem to be much more accepting of the Firestorm's interpretation of the Viewer 2 build?
I think there's multiple reasons why people are more receptive to it now. One is that Linden Lab has actually cleaned up the Viewer 2 code base quite a bit from, if you remember, last year around this time was the first preview. We got a look at it, and at that time, Viewer 2 was not ready to be released, and it was rushed. And I think it gave people a negative impression. It couldn't be customized, and the feedback was that it would not be made to be customized, and that put a lot of people off, and people didn't want to try it again. Now, we've given people a reason to try it again. We've added customization options in there that haven't been before. We've given people a path forward if they had a workflow, if they had a way of doing things with a V1 viewer. They can largely keep that same way of interacting with the viewer, and there's much less newness to adapt to. You can adapt at your own pace instead of being immediately lost. So having a stepping stone, having a bridge from Viewer 1 to Viewer 2 is immensely helpful for people crossing over. And I think that's what people were waiting for, and so far the feedback we have is that it's working.
Oops. Absolutely. I think that's what we were lacking before, was sort of that transitional phase where we could comfortably integrate instead of it being a bit like shell shock.
Well, the idea is to give people customization, the ability to customize. You can't make people change the way they do things. You have to give them the ability to do things the way they like to do them or how they're used to doing them.
Well, as your video showed, there are tons of customization features already implemented in Firestorm. Aaron, I know that you wanted to talk to us a little bit about KDU.
Right.
Sure.
So just before Aaron says that, we are getting KDU. We've purchased the license, and we will have KDU in our hands this week at some point. And so, yeah, Aaron's going to talk to everybody about what is KDU and what does that mean.
Perfect. That's what I want, because I'm KDU. To me, I have no clue. So yes, kindergarten explanation, please.
Sure, and it's actually very exciting. Everything that you see in Second Life, all of the graphics and all of the sculpty shapes are decoded using a mathematical library, and KDU is that library that decodes graphics and decodes sculpties according to the OpenJPEG Association spec, OpenJPEG 2000. So it's a vital piece of technology that draws all the images you see. And most every third-party viewer does not use it. We use OpenJPEG, which is an open implementation of that. It's free for anyone to download. It's open source. But it has a number of limitations, and we've always struggled with these limitations. The limitations are maybe 1 in 100 images. It just won't draw properly, and it will never draw properly. It throws an error, which prevents you from seeing it as it was designed to be seen. Or worse than that, it tells your viewer that the image is incomplete and tells it to download that image all over again. So you get images that are blurry and then sharp and then blurry and then sharp. And there's a few other issues with OpenJPEG. The other issue is that it's a little bit slower. It's slower for your computer to process than the KDU technology that Linden Labs uses. And we've been paying attention to this for a long time. It's not necessarily new, but what is new is this fall, Linden Labs reevaluated KDU because they were trying to justify to themselves whether it was worth upgrading to a new version of KDU. So to make that business decision, they benchmarked Second Life viewers to see how fast each version of the library was, whether it was OpenJPEG, whether it was the current version of KDU that everyone's using, or whether it's this new version that they were thinking of buying. And we paid close attention to that, and it turns out that the results were pretty dramatic. What they showed was that KDU can decode graphical images and sculpties 3 to 5 times faster than OpenJPEG can. And on top of that, the new version of KDU is 30% faster than the old version. So that was enough for Linden Labs to justify the cost of upgrading their version of KDU internally. When we saw that, we thought, hey, we could really make an improvement to our users by using the same technology. We have the opportunity to finally give people the ability to see sculpts that for whatever reason do not res, or images for whatever reason do not res clearly. Finally address those issues for users and especially content creators and store owners. And at the same time get a nice speed up. And as developers, we're now building very close to the same product that Linden Lab is building. So this keeps us tighter in sync. It helps us fix each other's bugs. There's less divergence between what we're doing and what they're doing. So it felt like a win all around, and the only question was, can we afford this? And because of the popularity of the Phoenix viewer, our ad revenue was such that we could afford it. And I thank Jess for getting that deal done and getting us licenses to develop and distribute KDU inside Firestorm in our next preview for all our users.
You know, Aaron, KDU has developed quite a, well, for lack of a better word, a controversial relationship with Second Lifers, obviously because of its history. What do you have to say to people who might be a little hesitant, or who is there any measures being taken to ensure that it's used in the way that people expect it to be used, and for nothing more within internally?
Well, just to recap, Emerald got in trouble with the way that they were using the KDU decoder technology because they were embedding extra information inside of images. We're not doing anything like that. We're not embedding any bit of information. In fact, we're using KDU exactly as it's delivered from Kataku Laboratories, the company that creates it. They're Australian based. So we're using the same library that Linden Labs is using, unmodified with nothing extra. And we believe that other people will be able to duplicate that. We believe that Linden Labs will be able to duplicate that and show that we're not hiding anything.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, if you have questions, you can IM them to me directly, and I will ask them during the Q&A session. And there they come. Also, our chat is back up on the website, so if you are watching this remotely, you can be active in the IRC channel there. Jessica, welcome back. It's good to have you. We just talked about...
I couldn't have been logged out at a better time.
No, of course.
We covered pretty nicely.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty good. Not bad. Good timing.
We just talked about KDU. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, just a layman's terms. For those of you who aren't too technical, and I did miss what Aaron said, so I'm not sure what he said, so I may be just repeating something he's already said. But in layman's term, KDU increases performance significantly while also providing more stability and eliminating many of the very common and annoying OpenJPEG bugs like broken sculpts, blurry textures that refuse to load, less texture flickering, etc. Linden Lab has done a bench test on KDU on their 2.5, an updated 6.4.1 KDU binary. I don't know if Aaron mentioned that. There's a link in front of me here that you can go to, and it's a little bit Chinese, I think, for most people, in that it is technical.
It looks like a fortune cookie.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Basically, Linden Labs results, they did a bench test performance comparison between the old KDU 4.2.1 versus 6.4.1, and they found 30% faster on Linux and Mac in performance, 12% faster on Windows. So KDU is going to be a huge thing for Phoenix, or for Firestorm, sorry. Really, I think it's going to give us even more stability and more speed.
Exciting. Well, I'm looking forward to see how that improves Firestorm. Now, is this also going to be integrated into Phoenix? I know you.
No. There are a couple conditions, and there'll be a lot of people saying, wait, you can't use KDU. Well, we can, under certain conditions. So first of all, and primarily the first condition is that the viewer has to be LGPL code-based. Phoenix is GPL, and so it will never qualify for KDU. However, Firestorm, we've spent quite a bit of extra time, and it does somewhat slow us down to be LGPL based, because it means that we have to have, so any code, for example, that's Phoenix features, for example, we have to have relicense or permission. So if there's Radar is a good example to start with. Radar was worked on by several different developers over the last 2 years, and improved and improved and improved. And it's been under the GPL code-based license. So in order for us to use that in LGPL, we have to get a hold of every one of the developers who have touched that code and get permission from them to relicense it to LGPL. This is just not going to happen. So it means that we have to rewrite just about all the features from Phoenix that we plan to put into Firestorm so that we can license it ourselves as LGPL. And the reason why we're doing this primarily is that we can use KDU. And we had planned this, in the past. We still weren't sure if we would get to this point. We didn't know what a license would cost. And it's a significant cost, and it's an annual cost. But the performance gains and to the user, and of course, again, I sound like a broken record, but our goal is to improve the user experience. KDU will do that, and so it's worth it. So yeah, it won't be in Phoenix.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions about, KDU or CGL or CGI or BBQ or ROFL, just send them on over and we will get those questions answered for you. But we're going to move on to another hot button topic right now, which is, Jessica, one of your favorites, isn't it? Web profiles.
All right. So last office hour, I reserved my opinion on web profiles. This week, however, I'm not going to reserve that, and on the basis that from a development standpoint, web profiles is not going to improve your user experience, and therefore I'm going to provide my feedback on that. I hate it. I absolutely hate the idea of web profiles. So I'm going to show you a couple textures, a couple snapshots that we've taken just behind me here. First of all, set this to 0. This is how profiles look in Firestorm right now. And if you can see that picture behind me, it's not bad. It's not perfect. It's certainly not viewer 1x, but it's not, bad. Okay, this picture next to that is what we're going to have in preview number 2. Much better. I think it's a great improvement to web profiles, or to profiles, sorry. I've got web profiles on my mind. It really actually irks me quite a bit. So huge improvement, I think, in preview 2. Now the trouble is that at some point we have to merge with LinenLab 2.5. Right now Firestorm is based on 2.4. On 2.5, web profiles is present in there. And this is what web profiles look like. So down in the bottom left, that is web profiles. I'll just have a little peek there. I'll just give you a minute.
It looks like a web browser. Because
and that's what it is. Basically, it's just opening a web page. Okay. From a development standpoint, I'm going to show you one more image, which Aaron was good to point out some things about. So the bottom right-hand corner here, one of the things that's going to make Firestorm better for people, one of the things that's going to improve the user experience is skinning. And, web profiles pretty much makes this impossible. And as you can see by the image directly behind me, so let me go over some of the things that make web profiles good and things that make them bad. what makes web profiles bad? First of all, they take almost 5 full seconds to open a web profile. So from the time you right-click and open somebody's profile, it takes a good 5 to 10 seconds before that profile actually opens. Yes, that is not going to change. The design, as you can see by the image, consumes 2 to 4 times the space of the original profiles. In screen real estate, which is something that people have been complaining about, is not having enough real estate, and one of the focuses of Firestorm is to give you back that real estate. Well, if we're forced to going into web profiles, you're going to lose that if you open someone's profile. The design cannot be customized. We can't change it, okay? All it's doing when you open someone's profile is opening the internal web browser to a web page and showing your profile on the web page. Avatars can't easily control how their profile is shared outside of Second Life. What does that mean? That means that your profile is on Google. Your profile is on every search engine on the internet. And if somebody searches your Second Life name, they're going to see every bit of information that you've posted on your profile. It is it's a web page. Your profile will be a web page, okay? The design crops existing pictures in odd ways rather than resizing them. So basically your profile picture that you take is going to get cropped, like it or not. You can't hide your groups with web profiles like you can in 1x viewers. You can't hide your groups. So one of the things, especially for privacy, people are concerned about is being able to hide certain groups. They don't want everyone to know that they're in. You can't do that. Web profiles will probably contain an advertisement. You cannot edit notes. So some people use notes in profiles to make notes. For myself, I very rarely actually mute somebody, but when I do mute somebody, because it's rare, I will make a note in the notes section of their profile so that the next time I see them and they're muted and I ask, why did I mute them? I can go to notes and see why I muted them. You can't do notes, at least not at this time. Okay, there's probably 1,000 other things people can find wrong with web profiles. So I'm going to give you, I'll be fair, and give you some of the good things about web profiles. Web profiles allow better searchability than the current one and consumes less resources for Lyon Lab. Web profiles allow users to link to Facebook, Twitter, and other social networking sites. So if you're into that kind of thing, maybe you'll like web profiles. Web profiles allow Lyon Lab additional revenue by adding advertisements on your profile page. And it is cheaper for Lyon Lab because web developers have lower wages than code developers do. So I'm going to ask you to make your own judgment on what you think about web profiles. And below my feet here is a link to the JIRA on web profiles. And I would like you to not vote for it, but I'd like you to leave your comments on the JIRA and what you think about them.
And be eloquent. Try to say something intelligent.
Yeah. I mean, don't go in there saying, this is stupid, and be reasonable. Constructive. Be constructive about it. We don't want to get stuck with web profiles. However, we've been looking into ways that we can work around it. Data scraping is one of the things that we've considered, which essentially is having a type of script that reads what is on the web profile and puts it into a floater, the floaters that you're used to. Unfortunately, while we may be able to do that, there's no guarantee that Lyon Lab in a month or 2 months or 3 months might change something on the page, which then breaks our ability to do that, and then you'll be on a viewer that can't look at profiles. So right now there is no viable alternative for us to provide you legacy-style profiles.
We're very concerned about web profiles because it goes directly to what Phelan was asking about earlier, and that's why Firestorm has been popular, and it's because we're able to give people more customization options. Well, web profiles in their current form dramatically limit our options. We can't do anything at the moment as basic as change the color or shape of the buttons on the page or the size of the page or anything else that we would want to customize is out of our hands. And even if we do go through some great lengths to, as Jessica explained, scrape data from the page and rearrange it and make it, lay it out in a different form, that is going to be fragile and likely to break without cooperation from Linden Labs. So we are hoping that we can find a way to get cooperation to make web profiles in a more customizable form for you. And one of the reasons why we're concerned about this, in addition to all the reasons we just said, is the late stages of Viewer 2.5 development. Viewer 2.5 is in Beta 3, which is quite close to release. I don't know if there's a release date planned, but 3 is pretty far down the list of how many betas Linden Labs does before they push out a full release. And if it is pushed out in this form, it's going to be difficult for us to work with. So we hope that we can get something in place, and your voices may help that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, is because we need your voices. We are trying to get a dialogue going with Linden Lab in regards to web profiles, and the more people that leave constructive criticism and what you feel about web profiles on that JIRA, that will help us and hopefully convince Linden Lab that some cooperation should be taken. Again, our thing is about giving users what they want, and from everything I've read, at least on that JIRA, that's not what people want. So,
absolutely. Well, I will say that your web profile that you've got up there, it looks like a little bit more reminiscent to the 1.x profile, which I really, really like.
Yeah, and that's what we want to be able to give you guys. And we're going to have it for Preview 2, but there's no guarantee we're going to be able to keep it. So, if we can't make some changes really soon before we have to merge to Linden Labs Stable 2.5, we're going to have web profiles.
Okay, well, we've got just about 10 minutes left. We're going to move on to some questions now. And it looks like we've got quite a few, and I'm going to ask a question from Crystal Glasswing, who is in our studio audience, who asked a question that I really would like to know myself. She says, with exclamation points, the pie, I miss the pie, will that ever be included in Firestorm? The pie being the pie menu rather than the drop down on right-click select to edit, to do whatever. Will we get the pie?
Pie menu is certainly on our agenda, and we're not going to be making it. We're not going to be making it. This is what you're stuck with. Some people like the context menu of Viewer 2. So again, our way of doing things is not to say this is the way you're going to do it. Our way of doing things is saying we're going to give you the option to use a pie menu, and it'll probably be in a specific skin. That you'd have to, switch to that skin to use pie. But yeah, definitely on our radar for sure.
Fabulous. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be pie. Let there be lots of celebration and cheering amongst you. We will pass out cake when the show's over. But right now, we have to run to a quick break. But we will be back right after these messages. Phoenix Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy to have you with us today. We are here with Aaron Oberlander, the the lead developer, I'm sorry, of Firestorm. I'm like, what are you? And our darling Jessica Lyon.
I asked that myself.
So sorry. Do forgive. So we're taking questions from the audience right now. One thing that I find has been a really predominant question is Firestorm still available for download for the preview?
Yes, but we need you to join the Firestorm Preview group in Second Life, and you can find that. It's named Phoenix-Firestorm Preview Group. Please join that group if you plan to try Firestorm, and the reason for that is because we can't provide official support for Firestorm yet until it is official release. However, the preview group is full of people who have been using Firestorm even before we released the preview because they've been self-compiling, and they're very helpful people. Many of them are in the audience right now. And so as far as support for Firestorm, it's peer-to-peer support. And of course, we try to help, whenever we can. But we do ask that, if you're on Firestorm, join the preview group. If you have problems, ask in the preview group, and you'll get help from us when possible, and as well as from other residents that are running it. And if you join that group and check notices, you will find the link to the preview.
Michael Luckstone wants to know, and I think you've touched on this just earlier during the hour, will Firestorm have the option to add different grids?
Not yet. We're adding the login manager. We don't have grid manager. Grid manager is on the radar for down the road, but it's not a priority right now, and I'll tell you why. We haven't tested Firestorm on other grids, and I can almost guarantee you there will be all kinds of problems with it on other grids as it stands right now. So Firestorm being on other grids is something a little bit down the road. Maybe once we get to a official release date, we'll have that. We have to... Quality is important to us, so we have to make sure that if we're going to give you the ability to use Firestorm on another grid, that it's going to work on that grid, and that's going to take quite a bit of QA and testing. And we're pretty swamped just with all the little things and big things that we have going right now. So not yet. Maybe when we get to official release date, maybe after 2 or 3 releases, we'll have it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Very possible.
Yeah.
It will work on other grids. The patches have been done, but we want to make sure that it works well on Second Life before we take people off of Second Life development to work on additional grids.
A couple of weeks ago, you announced a partnership with Spot on 3D. Will Firestorm be sort of a simultaneous development and also used with Spot on 3D, or will it be a different viewer altogether?
Possibly in the late future. For this year, we're going to be Phoenix viewer will be used for Spot On. We haven't discussed use of Firestorm yet on Spot On, and if so, that'll be quite a bit down the road, maybe a year. So we'll see.
Okay, Edward Solstar, who is a frequent visitor to the Phoenix Hour, says, you mentioned the command line. My question is, in Firestorm Alpha, will I be able to, or the preview 2, will I be able to type something like calc 2*3 and actually have it show the result in my local? And secondly, in preview, any search terms like shoes persists in all tabs, inventory, recent, and worn. Will that be fixed so each tab can hold/use a separate search term like viewer 1 does?
If you don't mind, I'll take the first question.
Sure.
That question about calculations on the command line, we have ported a lot of command line code into Firestorm Preview. You can set your draw distance, you can teleport. Calculations have not been migrated yet, and that's due to licensing reasons. As Jessica was talking about earlier, it's impossible that we have licensing squared away for all the features we used in Firestorm. Now, Amy Linden, or Amy Trehotchik, I think is her last name.
Chakothic.
Okay,
Yes.
is the owner of that calculations code, and I have not been able to get in touch with her despite a number of attempts. So I'm glad that somebody asked this on the air, because we need Amy Amy's permission to use that calculation code in Firestorm. If you have a way of contacting her, we would love you.
I'll send her a message on Twitter. Alaska Demo actually would like to know, one of my responsibilities with NCI is to help protect new users from griefing and moderate our NCI locations from such attacks. So I wish to know, will Firestorm ever focus its viewer to give better tools to help in moderation of parcels? Will the radar system that was in Phoenix have all the moderation tools in Firestorm someday?
Well, as you know, Phoenix has a lot of griefer protection tools built into it, and we cover many of those during our Phoenix classes that are hosted by Ed Merriman. We intend to absolutely have that in Firestorm as well. There's no time frame on that. We will have pretty much all of the features that are in Phoenix. In time, we will have them in Firestorm, but it's going to take a lot of time. Radar, for an example, is a year and a half of development. It took a year and a half of developing that code to what it is right now in Phoenix. So to consider that we have to rewrite radar code from scratch, you can expect that we're not going to have radar to its fullest capability in a month or 2 months. It's going to take quite a bit of time. So, and as far as the radar features for anti-griefing, well, certainly that's improving the user experience is helping users deal with griefers, and so that is on our list for sure. Absolutely, we will. We just don't have a time frame.
I believe some other third-party viewers have already started work on moderation capabilities for Viewer 2, so hopefully we'll be able to cooperate and share some code.
Sure, absolutely. Jonathan Zane says, I have a question. I heard a little bit about something with regards to the Winlight. They want to know how you plan to change or implement the Winlight settings, the advanced Winlight settings in Firestorm.
Basically the same way we've done it in Phoenix. That's about the best way it can be done, and it is hackish, having to use the land description field. It's a little bit of a hackish way of doing it, but it is the only way, and probably the best way that we ourselves can do it without server code to go with it. So it'll basically work the same way it works in Phoenix.
And that code is actually already in.
It is, yeah.
A few bits need to be twiddled on, but it's
we need to add a preference page for it, so you have your settings, which aren't in Firestorm right now.
Asturi Arai wants to know, do you plan on keeping the LSL preprocessor? And if they have to rewrite it, if you have to rewrite it, it's very important to our dev team, and it will be impossible for us to migrate without it.
That is going to be a job and a half, and I can't give you an answer on that just yet. We want to, but we need to look more into it. We didn't. It's like radar. Okay, it's really, really complicated and labor intensive. It's full of to make it work. You can call it kind of like hacks. It's made with hacks, and it's not well done. It just works, and even then, it works limitedly. Even in Phoenix, preprocessor has a lot of bugs, and in some cases, will even crash the viewer. So we don't want to put features in Firestorm that have crash bugs. One of our main focuses is on stability, and so. Until we can work out those bugs, especially crash issues and whatnot. And there's also the LGPL licensing issue. The preprocessor wasn't written by anybody on our team, and probably will have to be rewritten from scratch. We'll have to see. It's on our radar again, just like everything else is. But that's going to be down the road, I'm afraid.
Taz Shuffle says, I like to use the camera control and the movement control pops out the undockable windows. Can they be made resizable for full screen or for screen real estate reasons?
Aaron?
I'm not sure I understand the question exactly. Is it
resizing
the camera controls?
Yes.
The camera controls are. We've been slowly making them smaller. we've had 3 different passes. If you look at our code repository, we've made them smaller than before 3 times, and they're quite small now. But I'm sure there's even more work that could be done. So it's hard. They're difficult to resize because the viewer doesn't have a concept of scalable vector graphics. But I can see them slowly shrinking.
In other words, we'll continue to try to make it smaller, but we won't be able to give you the ability to, grab onto the corner of it and resize it dynamically.
I like how Taz put that, screen real estate, because it is so critical when we navigate a 3D world to be able to see what it's doing, and it didn't seem like Viewer 2 took much of that into consideration. So I'm really looking forward to see the Firestorm preview. I might have to go get it myself. And
you need to go get it.
Benefit from your tutorial.
Are you even on 8.1.8 yet?
I am on 8.1.8, yes.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that I could benefit from the tutorial. I watched it once, and I was pretty amazed by what I had seen. A lot of our viewers, I think, could still benefit from partaking of that tutorial, which was well done. Do you propose sharing that link again to the YouTube?
Absolutely not. In fact, if one of our people in the audience here will post that link for me while I talk. The purpose of that video, so one of the things that made Viewer 2.0 hit people in a bad way was that they got onto it and they didn't know how to use it. And so the purpose of the video was to orient you on how to use the viewer before you get the viewer. Basically give you an idea of what to do, where to go, how to change what before you get to it. And so let me just type this URL in. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
And I'll just say the link for the people on the stream. It's www.youtube.com/user/PhoenixViewerSL. And that's where you'll find all of our videos. Incidentally, speaking of videos on YouTube, Rezzed.TV was just telling us that they're going to be able to start hosting these office hours on YouTube as well, and I will be able to link our YouTube page to their YouTube page, so you'll be able to watch the archives on YouTube for these office hours.
Which is very exciting for us.
Yeah, special thanks to YouTube for eliminating the 15-minute limit.
Right. Previously, we were sort of constrained by that, but now they're giving us plenty of time to run our mouths, which, I'll never complain about. I'm completely satisfied with that. However, for this Phoenix Hour, unfortunately, we are out of time. Jessica, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any closing comments?
I just want to thank everybody who, we're a little bit overwhelmed by how many people have logged into Firestorm Preview 1 and absolutely loved it. And thank you for your input and your feedback on that. And we are taking that into account for Preview 2. And we look forward to getting Preview 2 out to you guys near the end of this month.
And I'd like to thank everyone who left a JIRA, a bug tracker or feature request in our database. Those are very helpful to us, and it's great to see such constructive responses of how we can make Firestorm everyone's daily browser.
All right, I am Phelan Fairchild for the Phoenix Hour with Jessica Lyon and Aaron Oberlander. Thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you once again in 2 weeks. Be safe, everybody.